You always think there'll be a warning before your life changes. Sirens, shouting, some kind of sign. Mine arrived as one quiet sentence over a pot of boiling pasta. Ryan's in town. I thought about having coffee with him. My name is Patrick Miller. I'm a corporate lawyer, the kind of man people call when they want problems handled quietly and cleanly. For most of my life, I thought that was who I was everywhere. Calm, rational, good at not making a mess. I built my days on routines. Same train, same coffee, same office, same walk home to the same apartment where my wife, Lauren, usually had music playing low and something on the stove. That night wasn't any different on paper. I came in late, shoulders aching from a 12-hour day of other people's arguments. Briefcase down by the door, keys in the bowl, tie loosened. From the kitchen doorway, I watched her. Messy bun. Loose sweatshirt hanging off one shoulder. Bare feet. She was stirring a pot, humming something under her breath the way she always did when she was half tired, half present. These were the details I used to love. The ordinary wife snapshots you tell yourself mean you're lucky. But the air was wrong. Her shoulders were too tight. The humming was off, like she kept forgetting the melody. She didn't turn when I came in. Usually she'd glance over her shoulder, toss a, "Hey, you're late," with that half smile. This time, nothing. "Hey," I said. "Hey," she answered, eyes on the sauce. No look back. No quick scan of my face to see how my day went. Just lines read from a script. I walked in, kissed her cheek. Her skin was warm, but she was somewhere else. People think affairs start with wild passion. They actually start with absence, the kind you feel even when the person is standing right in front of you. "How was it?" she asked. "Long," I said. "You?" "Busy," she replied, like she'd rehearsed it all afternoon. We moved around each other, setting the table, draining the pasta. I poured us both wine. The TV murmured in the living room, some sitcom laugh track leaking into the kitchen. And then she said it, almost casual, like she was asking about picking up milk. "Ryan's in town. I thought about having coffee with him." My hand didn't shake. I didn't drop the bottle. The training kicks in. You hear something unexpected. Your face stays neutral. Your mind starts filing. Ryan Caldwell. She'd mentioned him before. Old friend. We used to date, nothing serious. The kind of ex whose name slides past you because your wife keeps it light, keeps it vague, never lingers on any specific memory. That's the point. What she didn't say about him did more talking than she ever did. "How long's he in town?" I asked, like she'd said nothing unusual. "Just a few days, I think." Stir. We haven't seen each other in forever. "It's nothing, just catching up." Then, too fast. "I mean, I don't have to if it makes you uncomfortable." There it was, the full respectful out. The test wrapped as consideration. If I said no, I'd be the controlling husband. If I said yes, I'd be the trusting one she could walk right through. I watched her finally look at me. Her eyes were calm on the surface, but there was something coiled underneath. She wasn't asking permission. She was checking my temperature. "You can do what you want," I said. "You're an adult." Her shoulders loosened a little too much at that. "Okay," she answered. "It's just coffee." We ate dinner with the TV filling the silence we didn't admit was there. I watched her laugh at the screen a second too late, push food around her plate more than she ate it. She talked about the hospital, a difficult patient, a new patient. None of it stuck. On the outside, I was a tired husband having a normal weeknight. Inside, something quiet and precise shifted. Not a storm, not an explosion, just the first crack in the foundation. By the time we went to bed, nothing tangible had changed. No fight, no accusation, no proof. But as I lay there next to her, listening to her breathe evenly while I stared at the ceiling, I knew one thing with complete clarity. My marriage now had a fault line running through it, and it started with the name Ryan Caldwell. Life went back to normal. At least that's what it looked like from the outside. Alarm at 6:15. Shower, suit, coffee, train, office. I argued over contracts, sat in conference rooms with men who mistook volume for conviction, and nodded through their problems while mine sat quietly in the back of my head with a single name: Ryan. The kitchen conversation could have been a one-off. An innocent coffee. A ghost from the past walking through town and leaving again. Except normal started bleeding at the edges. It began with something small. Silence where there used to be noise. 4 years, Lauren's little end-of-shift texts had been one of the few soft habits in my day. Heading home done, finally. I'm dead. On my way, save me leftovers. Nothing dramatic. Just her way of tapping on the glass of my life, reminding me she was out there coming back to me. A few days after the Ryan conversation, those pings just stopped. No fight. No explanation. Just a blank space where my phone screen used to light up around 8 or 9 p.m. I told myself it was a busy run at the ER, staffing issues, a bad night. Logical reasons. I'm good at logical reasons. But absence has weight when you've seen the pattern for 10 years. Then came the late night. She walked in 2 hours after she said she'd be home. Keys hitting the bowl too carefully, like she'd practiced the sound. She had makeup on, subtle but too fresh for someone 12 hours into trauma and blood. A thin line of eyeliner, lipstick still mostly intact. Her cheeks were flushed, but not in the way a fluorescent hospital light does it. And the perfume, not the light, clean one she used every day. This was the heavier one, the one I'd smelled on her neck on anniversaries, dinners out, rare weekends away. It didn't belong in our hallway on a random Tuesday after an exhausting shift. Long night, I asked from the couch. Yeah, she exhaled, dropping her bag. Total chaos. We were short-staffed again. I had to cover for a colleague who called in sick. The lines came smooth, almost too smooth. I glanced at her bag. No hospital shoes, the ones she always complained about. No extra scrubs crumpled up. Her clothes were neat, no creases from hours of movement. Just a well-put-together woman who'd like you to believe she'd been in a war zone. Rough, I said. You okay? She nodded, heading straight for the shower. Just tired. I'm gonna crash after this. Sorry I didn't text. The door closed. Water on. The curtain pulled. The performance ended. I sat there, letting the details line up by themselves. The missing texts, the wrong perfume, clean clothes, the prepared excuse. If any of it had happened in one of my cases, I'd have flagged it in red. At home, I just pressed my tongue to my teeth and kept my mouth shut. That night, lying beside her, I listened to her breathing and stared at the dark. Something had shifted in my role. I wasn't just her husband anymore. I was an observer, cataloging evidence in a life I suddenly wasn't sure I still belonged to. There's a point where your gut stops asking you questions and starts handing you facts. After that night, I watched Lauren the way I watch hostile witnesses on the stand. Same calm face, same steady breathing, same quiet split screen in my head. On one side, my wife. On the other, the file. Started with the phone. It lived face down now, always. On the table, on the nightstand, on the arm of the couch. Screen lighting up, her hands sliding over it like she was smoothing out a wrinkle. Spam, she'd say a little too quickly. Work group chat. Nothing. Then there were the nights she went to bed early, claiming she was wiped, but took her laptop and her phone and shut the bedroom door. Gotta catch up on medical updates, she said once, already half turned away. ER doctors don't suddenly become librarians. But I just nodded. From the couch, I could hear the soft, muffled rhythm of her voice behind the door. Not the tone she used with patients' families. Lower, warmer, rehearsed. The patterns built themselves. Phone face down equals guarded. Over-affectionate mornings after distant nights equals guilt reset. Stories with too many clean edges equals lies. I didn't confront. I listened. I timed it. I remembered exact phrases. A part of me hated how natural it felt, turning my marriage into a case. One Sunday morning, she stood in the doorway, keys in hand, ponytail high, casual clothes that were just a little too considered. They just called, she said. A doctor's out sick. I have to rush in. I'll probably be late. Same script, same tone, like reading from last week's page. Something in me didn't crack. Clicked. She wasn't improvising anymore. She was running a playbook, and I wasn't her partner in this story. I was the audience she assumed wouldn't walk out. Be safe, I said. Text me if it's going to be really late. Of course, she answered, already halfway gone. The door closed behind her. That was the moment I drew the line in my head. No more hoping, no more giving her the benefit of doubt she hadn't earned. From here on, it wasn't about feelings. It was about evidence. Hiring a private investigator to look into your own wife isn't a hot blood decision. It's a cold one. I didn't rage, didn't tear the apartment apart, didn't scroll her phone while she slept. I sat at my desk one night, opened my laptop, and treated my marriage the way I'd treat a company I didn't trust. Discreet PI. Good reviews. No drama. I made the call from my office, blinds half closed, city noise humming outside. He asked for the basics. I gave him more than that. Days, times, her shift patterns, the sudden extra hours, the exact wording of her excuses, the places she claimed she'd been when the timeline didn't match the exhaustion level she wore home. He didn't ask if I was sure. Men like him know that by the time someone calls, sure is already in the room. Give me a couple of weeks, he said. I'll let you know when I have something. So I went back to pretending. Same dinners, same small talk, same TV murmuring in the background. I watched Lauren scroll through her phone, turn it face down, smile at something she wouldn't share. I answered her questions about my day. I didn't ask about hers. The waiting wasn't dramatic. It was just slow. Then one afternoon he called. Got something. Do you want photos, video, or both? Both, I said. We met in a small office above a nail salon. Neutral space. Cheap coffee. He slid a plain folder across the table like we were closing a deal. Inside, timestamps, locations, stills. Lauren on ER duty at a mall an hour away. Lauren sitting on a patio at a cafe I'd never heard of. Hair down. Laughing. Lauren got into a car I recognized from the plate. Ryan Caldwell. Then the video. Parking lot. Cheap motel. Night. Grainy as hell, but clear enough. Lauren and Ryan, arms around each other, mouths too close, bodies too familiar. They disappeared into a door marked with a peeling number. Later, they came out again, smiling the way I hadn't seen her smile in years. I watched it all without flinching. The pain was there, but it was clean. No more guessing. No more maybe. Cheaters think secrecy protects them. What it really does is keep you chained to doubt. Now I have facts. Faces, dates, addresses. By the time I closed the folder, the question in my head had changed. I wasn't wondering if she still loved me. I was deciding what kind of consequences she was going to meet. You learn a lot about yourself when you're sitting on proof of betrayal and your first instinct isn't to scream. It's to plan. I didn't confront Lauren that night. I didn't shove the photos in her face. I went home, made dinner, listened to her lie about her crazy shift, and let her words slide right over the reality I had in a folder in my briefcase. Then I found Amanda Caldwell. It didn't take much. Social media, mutual tags, a woman in her mid-30s, neat, contained, standing next to Ryan in pictures where he always seemed a little too proud of himself. She had sharp eyes, the kind that saw what they didn't like and filed it away for later. I sent a simple message. My name is Patrick Miller. I think we should talk about our spouses. I have proof. I'm not here for drama. I'm here for the truth. She replied within an hour. We met in a quiet cafe. No theatrics. She walked in wearing a blazer. No makeup overdone. No visible breakdown. Just a woman holding herself together by discipline. Show me, she said. I slid the folder over. She opened it. No gasp. No scene. Her jaw tightened once, then settled. The video took longer. Watching her husband and my wife walking into that motel on a loop was like watching two strangers drill holes into our lives. When it ended, she closed her eyes, exhaled slowly, then looked at me. They deserve to feel everything they hid from us, she said. Not in private, not with soft words. They chose an audience of secrecy. They can live with a real one. We built it from there like a joint operation. Fancy restaurant. Not chaotic, not loud, controlled. A table for 4 near the center with a clear line of sight to the entrance. Amanda reserved it in her name. I brought a tablet loaded with the video, volume turned low but clear. The night of, Amanda and I sat across from each other, barely talking. We didn't need to. 2 people on the same page don't need small talk. Ryan arrived first, scanning the room, probably expecting his wife alone. He spotted Amanda, smiled, then saw my face. Confusion, annoyance, a flicker of something like fear. Then Lauren walked in. She was dressed like this was a date. Effort in the hair, the dress, the small, practiced smile. She saw Ryan, followed his gaze, and then her eyes found us. First Amanda, then me. It was like watching color drain out of a painting. She stopped mid-step. The smile died in pieces. Her hand tightened around her bag. "Sit," Amanda said, voice flat. They sat. No waiter approached. Even the room seemed to lean in. I didn't say a word. I just set the tablet on the table, hit play, and turned it so the screen faced them. Lauren and Ryan on the screen walking into the motel. Laughing. Clothes. Comfortable. Recorded date stamp glowing at the bottom. Undeniable. First, they both tried not to look. Then they couldn't not look. The restaurant noise dimmed on its own. Forks slowed. Conversations faded. People knew they were seeing something, even if they didn't understand it. Lauren's hand went to her mouth. Ryan's face went tight and defensive. "Patrick, don't," I said quietly. "You're not here to talk. You're here to watch." I stayed seated. Calm. No raised voice, no dramatics. The images did everything for me. She'd built an entire secret world on the assumption there'd never be a day like this. I made sure she'd never forget there was. We walked out of the restaurant without a scene. No shouting, no plates breaking, no one running after us. Just the quiet weight of 4 lives rearranging as Amanda and I stepped into the night and went our separate ways. I didn't go home. Home stopped being a real word somewhere between the first lie and the motel footage. Weeks earlier, when I hired the investigator, I'd rented a small, furnished place near the river. Just in case. That's where I went. 1 bag. 1 key. For walls that didn't know my history. I sat on the couch in my shirt sleeves, tie off, staring at nothing. I didn't feel victorious. I felt emptied out, like someone had reached into my chest and cleaned the shelves. Then the phone started. Lauren. First call. I let it buzz out. Second. Third. Fourth. Then the voicemails. "Patrick, please, just pick up. It's not what you think." Okay. It is, but it's not that simple. I made a mistake. I was confused. I still love you. We can fix this. I'd seen the video. I knew exactly what her confusion looked like. Her laughing under a flickering motel light, arms around another man. I put the phone face down on the table and let it ring. Doing nothing felt wrong at first. I'm a man who solves things, who confronts, who pushes for resolution. Silence felt lazy. Then I realized it wasn't. Not answering was a decision, a line. I wasn't going to negotiate my own humiliation. I wasn't going to give her a stage to cry on and rewrite the script as, "We had problems," instead of, "I blew our life up." The next day, she escalated. Waiting outside my office building. Standing by the parking garage. Leaving handwritten letters through the front desk at the firm. The content was always the same. Love, confusion, apologies, history. The word "us" used like a weapon. I was polite, brief, distant. "I won't discuss this in person," I told her once, stepping past. "My lawyer will contact yours." Her eyes filled. Mine didn't. By then, the truth was simple. She still lived in the story where I was the man who would take emotional scraps and call it dinner. She didn't realize that man had walked out of the restaurant that night and never came back. Grief doesn't always look like tears. Sometimes it looks like a man sitting alone in a quiet apartment, realizing most of his life was built around someone who treated him like a background prop. The days after the confrontation stretched out, empty and sharp. No shared calendar. No "when will you be home?" messages. I went to work because I didn't know what else to do with my hands. I came back to 4 clean walls and too much silence. Silence is honest, at least. With no one to take care of, I started noticing the parts of me I'd shelved over the years. Friends I'd stopped calling because it upset the rhythm at home. Hobbies I'd dropped because they took up too much time. I'd trimmed myself down to fit the version of a husband I thought she needed. For what? One evening, I sat with a legal pad and a pen and wrote a sentence that didn't sound like a case file. My name is Patrick Miller, and this is how my marriage ended before it was officially over. Felt clean, so I kept going. First it was notes, scenes, dates, little observations. Then it became chapters. I wasn't writing for her. I was writing to put the chaos somewhere that wasn't inside my chest. By the time the divorce paperwork was drafted, I had a manuscript. In the middle of all this, she tried one last grand gesture. She showed up at my temporary place unannounced, eyes bright with that old frantic energy. I opened the door just enough. "I want to donate my kidney to your father," she said. "I mean it. I talked to a specialist. I can do this. I want to make things right." My father had been on a transplant list for years. She knew that, or she used to. "He got a transplant 3 weeks ago," I said. "He's recovering well." I watched it land. Confusion, then realization. She hadn't asked, hadn't checked, hadn't been there long enough to know. Her big redemption arc died right there in the hallway. Instead of twisting the knife, I walked to the table, picked up a thick envelope, and handed it to her. "What's this?" she asked. "Our story," I said. "Or rather, your part in mine. I've been writing it since the day you mentioned coffee with Ryan. You're a chapter now, Lauren. That's all." She slid the pages out, saw her name, dates, scenes she thought I'd never noticed. "You can't." "I already did," I said. "And after I'm done editing, I'll move on to the next page." "You're not invited." For the first time, I saw it clearly in her face. Not guilt, not love, not panic. Loss of control. She'd lost the narrative, and with it, any leverage over me. Once the ink dried on the divorce papers and the apartment sale was confirmed, I realized there was nothing tying me to that city except habit. Habits had almost killed me. I sold my car, finalized the sale of the place Lauren and I used to call home, and put the rest of my life into boxes that I didn't actually want. Then I cut it down again. 1 suitcase, 1 laptop, 1 printed copy of the manuscript. I picked a coastal town almost at random. Not a resort, not somewhere flashy, just a small place where the ocean was loud enough to make you forget anything that didn't matter. The first night there, I stood on the shore and listened to the waves. No shared history. No neighbors knew my ex-wife's name. No one looked at my left hand, expecting a ring that wasn't there anymore. I wasn't Lauren's husband here. I was just a guy with too many thoughts and a rented apartment with thin walls. Days settled into something simple. Walks along the beach at sunrise, coffee at a small cafe with wobbly tables, reading more than I talked. I took a few remote cases for old clients, not because I needed the money, but because my brain likes problems to chew on. Somewhere in that quiet, I realized I didn't feel damaged, just stripped down, cleaner, like someone had taken a high-pressure hose to my life and blasted off everything that didn't belong. That's when I met Claire. She was at the cafe, red pen in hand, grading papers. Literature teacher. Local. She talked about books the way good surgeons talk about anatomy. Practical, precise, no fluff. We started with simple things, recommendations, arguments about endings, borrowed novels. She didn't know I was divorced. She didn't know anything about Lauren or Ryan or a motel on the edge of town. She just saw me as I was sitting in front of her. A man who showed up, listened, and paid attention. For the first time in a long time, the idea of love didn't feel like walking into a trap. Felt like a door I could choose to open when I was ready. By then, my life ran on a quiet rhythm that didn't include her name. Mornings started with the sound of waves punching the shore and a cheap alarm clock that never quite matched the actual time. I'd make coffee in a chipped mug, open the window, let in the salt air, and feel nothing dramatic, just steady, functional. like a man whose life finally matched his own pace. The cafe had become my second office. Small coastal place, a little crooked, always smelling like burnt espresso and sugar. The owner knew my order and that I tipped well, but he didn't know I used to be a husband whose wife spent nights in motel parking lots with an old flame. That anonymity was worth more than half the cases I'd ever billed. That afternoon, I sat at my usual table by the window, laptop open, manuscript on the screen, Claire across from me, red pen in hand, demolishing a page I'd rewritten 3 times already. "You're doing it again," she said, tapping a paragraph, "explaining what you already showed. You don't trust the reader enough." "I'm a lawyer," I said. "We're trained to repeat ourselves until the other side gives up." She smirked and went back to marking the page. I watched her for a second, hair pulled back, focus sharp, no part of her needing to be the center of the room. Just a present. Solid. My phone buzzed on the table. Old area code. From the city I'd left behind. A name popped up. Dan R. An associate from my old firm. Not a friend, exactly, but a man who'd shared enough late nights and bad coffee to know where a few bodies were buried. I opened the message. "I saw someone today. Thought you might want to see this." Below it, a photo. Took me half a breath to recognize her. Lauren. Sitting alone at a cafe table that wasn't this one. Thinner than I remembered. Not in a fitness way. More like someone had been siphoning energy out of her over time. There were lines near her mouth that hadn't been there before. The kind people get from pressing their lips together to hold something in. Her posture told the real story. Shoulders rounded inward. Spine curved. Hands wrapped around a mug she wasn't drinking from. No ring. No attempt at presentation. No careful hair. No bright lipstick, no performance. Her eyes weren't on the camera. They weren't on anything. Just drifting, fixed on some middle distance only she knew. Dan had added one more line. Heard things went sideways after everything. Hospital politics, rumors, Ryan bailing. Anyway, thought you'd like the update. A few years ago, that message would have blown my chest open. I would have zoomed in on her face, analyzed every pixel, tried to decode if she looked sorry, if she looked punished enough, if life had hurt her the way she'd hurt me. Now, I just studied it the way I'd study Exhibit C in a case I'd already won. Lauren, alone. No audience. No script. The fallout finally settled on her shoulders instead of mine. Hospital whispers. Lost promotions. Ryan disappeared once the cost of the affair got higher than the thrill. Actions. Consequences. Simple math. Bad news. Claire asked, not looking up from the page. I locked the screen and set the phone face down. Just a ghost from old life, I said. Nothing that can hurt me now. She nodded like that answer made sense, drew a hard line through one of my sentences, and replaced it with a single word. Enough. You overwrite when you don't trust yourself, she said. This guy in your book, Patrick, he's better when he says less and does more. Harsh, I said, but I was smiling. Accurate, she shot back. I leaned back in my chair, letting her words sit. Patrick. In the book, he was a character. On this side of the table, he was just me with a little distance and a word count limit. And for the first time, thinking about Lauren didn't feel like pulling the scab off an old wound. It felt like remembering a case I'd handled a long time ago. Important at the time. Closed now. I unlocked my phone again and gave the photo one more look. Not at her pain. At my reaction or lack of it. No spike in heart rate. No urge to call. No fantasy of telling her I'd seen it and delivering some clean, cutting line. Just a calm understanding. This is what happens when people build their lives on lies and assume the bill will never arrive. I typed back to Dan. I appreciate it. I'm good. Hope you are too. That was all he got. That was all the past got. Earth to counselor, Claire said. Are you checking out on me? Or are you rewriting opening statements in your head? Neither, I said. Just deleting old files. She smirked. Good, because this ending, she tapped the last chapter, is strong. You don't let him circle the drain. He doesn't go back just to prove he's over it. He moves on. Quietly. That's the power. I looked at her. then at the laptop, then at the faint reflection of myself in the cafe window. Simpler, older, but cleaner. She didn't know she was describing my actual life, not just the story on the screen. She didn't know there had been nights where I'd replayed Lauren's betrayal until I almost convinced myself it was somehow my fault. She only knew the man who showed up now, the one who didn't need his scars to be seen to prove they were real. I opened the message thread one last time. I pressed my thumb on the photo. Hit delete. No drama. No ceremony. Just taking out the trash. Here's what no one tells you when you're in the middle of being betrayed. You think the pain will last forever. You think you'll always flinch at their name, their face, their memory. You think healing means getting some perfect apology, some Hollywood closure scene. It doesn't. Healing is the day their face lands on your screen and your first thought is, that's not my life anymore. Healing is when you don't need them to suffer or succeed or anything at all, because they're no longer a reference point for who you are. Claire pushed my manuscript back toward me. You're almost there, she said. This feels like a man who finally understands his own story. Yeah, I said. He does. Outside, the ocean kept moving. Inside, the past finally stopped. The photo was gone. The noise was gone. The chapter was over. And for the first time, it didn't just feel finished on the page. It felt finished to me,